guys who can produce at the opportune moments.
Now, the point is with Montreal, there is not any one man carrying this team as Reigns strikes out. So Aguilera, who was a big question mark prior to the game. In fact, this morning in the game story in the New York Times, they had him scratched.
You see it, just a little slider that Reigns thinks is a fastball. That's what the slider does. Comes up there looking like a fastball, goes down and in at the last moment.
And everything low. Something there with Gary Carter. Might be the strap on his glove. No.
Looks like he has a broken batting glove, if there is such a thing. Ah, there we go. Yes.
Equipment repair.
I always had a good feeling when I break the catcher's glove when I was pitching. It gave me a feeling that I was maybe throwing harder than I really was.
By the way, we'll have a comment on the interviews you just saw relative to the apparently impending strike situation. The interviews with Peter Ueberroth and, of course, Donald Fehr. During the course of the game, you'll hear more from each of them.
UL Washington is the batter, like Reigns, a switch hitter, and as you can see, he's been hot, and it's one of the reasons they have found a spot for him in the lineup, taking up high. Yesterday, they were able to rest Hubie Brooks. Occasionally, they moved Vance Law to first base of late and had Washington play second. So even though he is not an everyday player, he's been getting into the lineup. And you'll recall with UL, the omnipresent toothpick. 2-0 the count. Washington at Kansas City, with Aguilera's last pitch clocked at 92, was able to use that toothpick in relative obscurity for a while, and then all of a sudden the Royals wound up in the World Series and every kid in the country saw it. So the Royals got a lot of letters and they asked UL if he'd think about removing it, and he did for a while, but he's got it back in, and when you're hitting what he's hitting right now, 315, it's going to stay there. Strike, 3-1.
I don't believe that Toronto team, by the way. They're already ahead of Baltimore 3-0 in the third inning. Thought you told me they were going to die, Jim.
You talking about the Orioles or the Blue Jays?
The Blue Jays.
Foul back, 3 balls, 2 strikes on Washington. 1 out, bases empty in the first inning at Shea Stadium. The Mets and the Expos.
You go back and talk about UL Washington, Kansas City, of course, a great week, winning 6 in a row, coming, I guess, picking up 4 games in the loss column to get within shouting distance of the Angels. I think they'd like to have UL Washington, the shortstop situation over
right
there.
Now.
3-2 pitch to him is called, strike 3. So Reigns and Washington gone on strikes.
Excuse me, Al, if strikeouts are any indication how your arm feels, Aguilera's arm feels great there. A fastball right on the outside corner. UL Washington knew it was a strike.
Kansas City and Detroit are scoreless underway at Cleveland. 1-1 Yankees and Indians in the third. And Toronto 3-0 over Baltimore in the second inning. Texas, Milwaukee later on. Blue Jays coming off a sweep of California and leading the Yankees by 7. Andre Dawson, bothered the last 2 seasons by a damaged knee, has had it drained a couple of times already this season, and you can detect it oft times when he swings, the pressure that he will not place on that knee at the plate. And he's a fellow who's not going to sit here and make excuses for the type of season he's having, but there's no question that it's affected him.
Well, talking to Buck Rogers, the manager of the Expos, he said everything was fine. He went after a ball that eventually turned into be a grand slam home run. Durham hit, ran into the wall, hurt his shoulder and his knee. He's had to have it drained twice since then. Talked to him in spring training. He really felt with the rehab, and there we see Buck Rogers. He thought he was going to be fine. The problem he has, Al, though, is not only running into a wall, but the AstroTurf. If you have bad knees and you play on the turf, especially up at Olympic Stadium in Montreal, causes problems.
Little soft liner off the glove of Backman, who just barely mistimed his leap and out into right center field. Dawson breaking his bat and hitting it into right center, and it scored a base hit. So the Expos have a man on with 2 out.
Oh, a good pitch from Aguilera. You can see how strong Dawson is. He breaks the bat right on the end. Backman with a nice try, but just can't quite reach it. Wally's not very tall. The difference probably between an out and a base hit.
Now UB Brooks, the former Met, in that 4-for-1 deal. Brooks, the key man for Montreal in terms of the acquisition, as they wanted to shore up the middle infield in terms of offense in particular. And UB's done the job defensively, and they moved him into the 4 spot.
And the 55 ribbies tell his story and his value to the club.
And a lot of them have been key hits, too. He has been very productive with men on base in key situations and has been slumping, though, of late. 3 for his last 27.
That happens.
They gave him a day off yesterday.
A week ago tonight, we were in Kansas City. Yanks a game and a half out. 1 game in the loss column. Now they're 7 out. That's how fast it can happen. They led 3-0, remember, going into the bottom of the 5th. Rasmussen came a cropper. Went to the minors the next day, as we predicted. 5 runs for Kansas City in that 5th inning. They won the game, and the Yankees have been on a deep decline ever since. Look at Hernandez's foot.
1-1 pitch is low. Ball 2, 2-1.
Somewhat of a look at Keith Hernandez's foot. There's been a controversy in the National League that he normally has that foot in foul territory. The ruling in the league has been that he must start in fair territory. There, I guess if you erase the line, you can start wherever you want.
Grounded down to short, and Santana over to Hernandez, who has his foot on the bag. He scored the put out, and after a half, it's Montreal 0, and the Mets coming up. Off in center, Wally Backman and Keith Hernandez, Carter, Strawberry, and Heat, Johnson, Santana, and Aguilera. Howard Cosell talked with Peter Ueberroth before our game this evening in regard to the impending strike. Here is more of that conversation.
You predict no strike, right?
That's what I predict. The quality of people on both sides of the table should get the thing done. Players, all the players that I've talked to don't want to strike. Owners don't want to strike. There's enough on the table that they can find compromise. So I wish them well, and then I'll help them in any way I can. Let's get it done.
Peter Ueberroth predicted no strike. Do you have a prediction?
I have no prediction. I certainly hope he's right, because for that to come about, we will have to have an agreement that the players are satisfied with, and that's what I've been trying to do since the beginning.
Is that time?
Yes, there's certainly time. There's not time to waste, but there is time.
8 days before the strike date. That's the 6th of August. You look at the Expo defense: Raines, Winningham, and Dawson. Wallach, Brooks, Washington, and Drees in the infield, with Fitzgerald back of the plate, and Bryn Smith, the winningest pitcher on the Expo staff, having a great season at 12-3, working on Dykstra, taking high, ball 1, 1-0. Glenn Dykstra playing in place of Mookie Wilson, who went on the disabled list, prompting the recall of Dykstra, and he's been an igniter for New York. Wallach playing well in on the grass at third and trying to take away the bunt. 2-0.
What do you deduce from the strike talk? What you've heard tonight? Newsmaking, meeting privately with Fear. Marvin Miller not at the meeting.
2-1.
Commissioner saying if he strikes agreement on all of the issues, salary cap, players' salaries, arbitration, all the rest, he can make it stick with the owners.
Dykstra hits it in the gap toward left center field, and with the outfield very shallow, it rolls all the way to the fence, and Dykstra can motor around second. They will hold him there, though, as the throw comes in.
That kid is amazing. Jim and I stood at the batting cage with Keith Hernandez. He's a little fella. You don't think he's going to hit it as far as he does, as he just did. As you look at the hit again, he truly catalyzes a baseball team, and he's done that for the Mets.
Well, he certainly has, and we talked about the way they've scored runs in July. One of the reasons because Dyker's been on base. We talk about all the home runs by Strawberry and Carter and Foster and Hernandez, but you got to get somebody on.
Backman, a number of weeks back, was hitting a Look at the bunt.
He bunts, and Smith can't field it, and everybody is saved. So Wally Backman legging it safely to first base, and the Mets are in business at the outset with runners at first and third and nobody out.
Well, Backman here just getting Dykstra to third base. Of course, he has excellent speed, and Smith knows that. Has to rush to make the play, can't come up with it.
We'll wait to see how they score it as Hernandez comes up. He's had a great month. Keith, after slumping in June, has really come on again, hitting .293, and it scored an error on Smith.
Which it should be. But Backman is in the same boat as Hernandez. He was hitting .222. Now he's hitting .279. So he's had a terrific surge.
And that won't count as an at-bat for Backman. It's credited as a sacrifice, even though there was an error on the play. Runners at first and third. There's Hernandez, the up and down, the great April, the lousy May and June, and 4.11 in July, which is tops among regulars in the National League for the month.
He should be the player of the month for July.
Strike, 1-1.
They are opportunists, aren't they, James?
Well, they certainly are, and I was talking to Keith. I said, how come the bad 2 months? And he said, my dad has a dish like alfalfa over there. Said he was watching me hit. I completely opened my stance. He said, I used to be able to see you from the center field camera. I'd see your whole number. I'm not seeing that. Why don't you go back to a closed stance? You'll have an idea right here. Closed stance is where your front foot is closer to the plate. And you'll see it right there. He went back to that, and he's hit 400 for the month.
It's amazing with all the satellite dishes, the advice you can get these days. Who was it? John Tudor, who got some advice from an old high school teammate that straightened him out?
I think it was his high school coach. Said, you're not throwing, you're not doing something. I had Mike Cuellar call me once from Puerto Rico, saying, what happened to your windup?
Hernandez rips it down the line and left, and that is a fair ball. The Mets take a 1-0 lead, and maybe two, as they are waving Backman in, and he will score on a double by Hernandez. 2-0.
Do it quickly.
It's the fastball out over the plate.
Goes right with the pitch, and that's why he is such a fine hitter.
Well, that's the kind of pitch, Howard. If you try to pull it, you hit a ground ball to second, you get a run in, but you have 2 outs in the inning because it's a double play ball.
Now Gary Carter, the batter. Hernandez with 58 runs batted in and leading the team. Carter in the cleanup spot, fouls it back, and the count is 0-1. Gary Carter playing with an ailing knee, playing in pain, and there was some serious concern about Carter a couple of weeks ago as to whether he'd be able to complete the season. At the moment, it looks as if he can. 1-1 account.
There's no illusions. He told Jim again at the batting cage, I'll go as far as I can, as hard as I can.
Well, he has a cartilage problem. He had it operated on October 5th of last year, I think the day after the season. And he hopes it'll just get through the season. Of course, there's a guy that's played with, what, ankle injuries, broken rib, having a pretty good year.
Man who got it started, Len Dykstra with his double.
Looks like a baby, doesn't he?
Popped up left side of the infield, and Wallach falls for it in front of Brooks to make the catch. Carter becomes the first out of the inning, and now Darryl Strawberry, who hit 2 home runs yesterday. Mets were blown out, but Strawberry had a good day as they lost 12-4. And he has been on a tear since coming back from his thumb surgery.
2 things about this young man. The way he's matured. Wasn't easy to come in here as a celebrity even before he started, a superstar, being likened to the likes of Ted Williams, even in terms of batting potential. Absurd to do that to a kid, but now he's matured, he's well within himself. He has a sense of his future.
And he, like Carter, is playing hurt. That thumb still bothers him. But he's told Dave Johnson he wants to be in the lineup every day. He's missed enough of the season already. Strawberry still has that thumb, even though it's under the batting glove right now, wrapped. and where it really bothers you if you don't make solid contact or if you try to check your swing. Strike one pitch is a chopper to the left side that will advance the runner, and Dreesen has to do a toe dance on the bag as Hernandez goes to third. So Strawberry grounds out to Brooks. And with Hernandez at third and 2 down and the Mets on top 2-0, Danny Heap is the batter. Mets breaking out on top, and that's a good sign for them. 20-3 this season in like situations when they score in the first. Danny Heap, who filled in very capably for Strawberry, and now Dave Johnson is spotting him. He had him at first base yesterday, giving Hernandez a rest, has him in left field tonight, giving Foster a rest. So, man, you can move around and lines it right back to Smith, who's angry that he botched the bunt and fires it down to the ground in disgust. So he misses the easy play and makes the hard one.
Just a good fastball. Hits it not that hard, but right at him. It's kind of a reflex play.
And it's 2-0. Back after this message in the season was the 4-for-1 deal. The Expos and the Mets. Gary Carter going to New York. The Expos got those men, and that is how they are faring right now. 3 of them with a big club, and the other Floyd Youmans had been up briefly and is pitching now at Indianapolis again. And there are the numbers for Gary Carter. As it has turned out, each club is pretty happy with the way things have developed, at least to this point.
I was talking to General Manager Frank Cashin about that deal, and he said he really felt the key player for Montreal was Winningham. He's going to be a fine player. He's really done a nice job in center field.
Dan Dreesen in the second inning. He'll be followed by Wallach and Winningham. Mets on top 2-0. Down low, 2 balls and no strikes to count.
He's never developed the way they originally thought he would, Dan Dreesen in Cincinnati. He's got a good swing, quick bat. Watch him.
Hits that one on a hop, and Backman gets a break because the mound slowed it up and throws him out. If that ball doesn't hit the sloping part of the mound, it probably goes through. But it takes a nice, convenient hop, nice enough for Backman to get there.
Backman to his right. As you said, Al, if the ball doesn't come up, the ball's into center field. Knows he has plenty of time, sets his feet, and makes a perfect throw. Kind of a typical situation. Dreesen, young pitcher, gets behind him 2-0, throws him a fastball. He had a good swing. He got robbed of a base hit by the pitcher's mound.
Now Wallach takes up and away, and the count 1 ball and no strikes. Tim going to right field a lot lately. He has really perfected the inside outswing. Mets for the moment play him just about straight away, taking low and outside. Bob Buck Rogers, former Angel catcher, managed Milwaukee in '81 to a split season title, sent him into the playoffs where they lost to the Yanks. Wallach pulls this one on the ground to third, and Johnson's throw one-handed by Hernandez for the second out. 2 down.
Howard Johnson, again, just backing up. One of the things you have to do, you either come in or you go back, as the third baseman has a strong enough arm. One of the reasons Keith Hernandez keeps winning those Golden Gloves. It makes the bad throw look like a good one.
Amazing what somebody like Garvey or Hernandez can do for the fielding average of the 3 infielders.
That's what Danny Heap said after having to go play at first base yesterday.
Yeah.
Get me out of there.
In the air off the bat of Winningham to left field, and there is Danny Heap, more comfortable in left than at first, and makes the catch to retire the side. The Expos are gone in order. We've played an inning and a half, and the Mets lead 2-0.
You know, one of the best things about being an ex-big leaguer is getting freebies to the game. Call the front office, bingo. And once these fans recognize me, I probably won't even have to pay for my light beer from Miller. Down it! I love them. These fans know I drink light because it's less filling and it tastes great. Good seats, huh?
You're in the wrong seat, buddy. Come on.
Oh, I must be in the front row.
Come on.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Good seats, hey, buddy? He missed the tag! He missed the tag!
From their third baseman, Knight and Johnson early, and now both are coming around. Bluff bunt, 1-1.
Got another illustration of fate. It seemed like they were going to go with Ray Knight at third base. He ends up hurting his leg. Put Johnson back in the lineup, and he gets hot with the bat. Of course, that's the reason they got him in the first place. Drove in 50 runs, 12 home runs last year at Detroit. It just took him a while to get hot, I guess.
They gave up Walt Terrell to get him. Grounded toward the middle. Washington over and throws him out.
Interesting thing about Hojo is he was swinging well from the right side. He had not been notable for that kind of achievement earlier.
Only did, out of the 12 home runs last year, only 2 from the right side.
We saw him in Cincinnati really belt one from the right side.
Of course, that graphic shows you right there. Bryn Smith, what an outstanding July he's had. I think that's why he threw the ball down. Here's a guy 33 and 31 lifetime with an ERA just above 3. You get the message that you can't afford to give up too many runs. Again, that bunt, wasn't very happy not coming up with that bunt. Gave him a 2-run inning, or at least it led to one of the 2 runs.
Strike to Santana. Bryn Smith is a very interesting case, starting his career in the Baltimore organization. That one is grounded toward the middle, and it bounces off Brooks and out into shallow center field. Hubie playing it a little casually, and the ball jumped up and glanced off him for an error.
Jumped up. Did they mark it error?
I think you'll see the ball take a bad hop. Also, Santana runs fairly well. Ball just comes up a little bit higher. Because of the speed of the ball, no doubt they'll give him an error. The ball wasn't hit hard, but again, a hit. I think that's what they call in baseball a home call.
That's a hit in Shea Stadium. How would they mark it in Detroit?
So they give him a base hit. If that's Ozzie Smith, they don't give him a base hit. I guarantee you that.
Of course, if that's Ozzie Smith, he usually probably makes the play.
No question.
If it's Ozzie Smith, there are 2 out. Now Aguilera around the bunt takes a strike, and the count is 0-1.
Of course, that's something you always can question. If you do have an outstanding infielder and he doesn't get to, or he gets to a ball and he doesn't make the play, a lot of times it will be an error, even though with a lesser fielder, you get the benefit of the doubt. There's a perfect example.
Reputation has a lot to do with it. Speed of the base runner, all those things figure in. Whether a guy's got a no-hitter in the 8th inning, that has figured in several times. You recall that, don't you? Strike.
You refer, I take it, to a situation in Anaheim.
Absolutely. About 5-6 years ago.
When Buzzaroo Bavasi backed me 100%. And what I said about the sports writer who was an official scorer.
Wasn't Rick Miller involved in that play in center field?
Exactly.
Aguilera takes outside, and the count 1 ball and 2 strikes.
You really didn't finish your thought on Bryn Smith, but started in the Oriole organization, spent about 7 years in the minor leagues. Interesting thing, last year he's 12 and 13, this year 12 and 3. And I was asking everybody, what's the difference? Because he has an outstanding palm ball, as you alluded to early, good curveball, but his fastball has gotten faster.
Increased velocity.
3 or 4 miles per hour. Plus, if you give the advantage of knowing where the ball is going, because he has excellent control.
Bunted by Aguilera, this time fielded by Smith, who throws over to first base. Washington covers, sacrifice 1-4. Santana goes to second, and Dykstra will come up. But Smith is a fella who was involved in the Gary Renicky deal that long ago in the Montreal-Baltimore transaction, and spent so long in the minor leagues he was about ready to quit in 1981, and then turned it around in AAA in '81.
Don Stanhouse, who came along with Renicky over to the Orioles in that trade. It's also interesting to note that the Montreal outfielders have moved back a little bit. Mr. Dykstra up.
Yes.
Down low on the count, 1 ball and no strikes.
You mentioned in your pregame statement, Al, that the Mets have 4 times within the month scored 15 or more runs. Only 2 other teams ever achieved that. You remember them well, don't you? Both in the year 1930. Who were the teams?
Well, I'm going to let you tell me as you look graphically at exactly what the Mets have done.
All right.
But I do know one thing. In 1930, the baseball was juiced up.
That's right. The league batting average was .303.
grounded to the right side, and Washington will throw out Dykstra. And we'll get the answer to this pop quiz when we come back in the top of the third inning. The Mets are gone. At the end of 2, it is New York 2 and Montreal nothing. Howard Cosell and June Palmer in the third inning, 2-0 Mets. And Mike Fitzgerald, one of the 4 acquired by the Expos from New York in the Carter deal to lead things off in the third inning. Rick Aguilera, the rookie who's been up and down twice this season. Liner, soft liner, right to the shortstop, Santana. Okay, Howard, as Smith comes up, who were those teams we were talking about in the second?
Well, of course, you remember, both in the year 1930, the Cardinals, led by Jim Bottomley and Chick Hafey, were one of them, and the Cubs were the other, led by Hack Wilson, the little round man who once knocked in 190 runs in one season and had 56 home runs in one season. Hack Wilson and Kai Kala. You were around then, of course.
Absolutely. Smith.
I'll tell you, they used to come into Ebbets Field and give you the price of admission just in batting practice. Both teams with the 4 names previously mentioned.
1-0 pitch is fouled away. You know what I find amazing about what the Mets have done, scoring all those runs that many times? The Mets are in their 24th year of existence, and in 23 seasons, they scored 15 or more runs in a game 5 times total. And now they've done it 4 times in 1 month. 1-1 pitch is grounded to the left side, fielded by Johnson, and throws him out. And so Aguilera, a big question mark, has retired 6 straight and 8 of the first 9.
Another nice play by Howard Johnson, far to his left.
A lot of range.
Pitching, running. Santana probably makes the play anyway, but Johnson did it for him.
ABC's Wide World of Sports this Saturday features the Hall of Fame game, the Giants taking on the Oilers, and as you know, Joe Namath will be joining Frank Everett and O.J. Simpson, and you will see it. Our first football telecast of the year at 2:30 Eastern Time. The Giants and the Oilers Saturday.
More than that, the Juice and Joe Willie inducted. Frank, of course, already there. January 12, 1969. Slant left with Matt Snell. 121 yards.
Strike to range and a count 0-1.
Throw under the zone to George Sauer Jr., number 83. Again and again and again, 9 times in all. Let Dave Herman put away Bubba Smith. Jets 16, Colts 7.
Grounded to the right side. Yeah, but whatever happened to Norm Van Brocklin? Hernandez makes the play unassisted. 2-0 at the end of 2.5. 12-3. And I talked to manager Bob Rogers about him before the game.
Well, Bryn Smith has been the ace of our staff all year. He's been the most consistent pitcher. He's got 3 solid pitches. He's got good fastball, excellent change, and a good curveball, and he can throw them all for strikes. So I think you'll see he's a guy that can pitch a 9-inning game in less than 100 pitches when he's got his good stuff. So he makes him hit the ball. He strikes out 3 or 4 a game, but not really a strikeout pitcher. But our fielders play well behind him because he's not 3-2 on everybody.
He does make you hit the ball. Good control. Does not hurt himself. And the count 1-1. Doesn't hurt himself in terms of walks, but he did hurt himself by botching the bunt in the first inning off the bat of Backman.
Well, I think another reason he was so disgusted, the leadoff hitter, Lenny Dykstra, he got behind him 2-1, came in with a fastball and the double.
1 ball, 2 strikes the count.
Going back to Wally Backman's bunt, something he's been doing a lot this year. Hit right around 280 last year. Thought he needed to improve his offense some way. Bunting is part of it.
Backman's hitting .353 in his last 20 games.
Grounded down to Dreesen, and Dan will take it himself. 1 away. By the way, on the subject of Smith's control, he has not walked a man now in 26 1/3 innings. It's almost 3 full games. Here's Hernandez, who's double in the first, drove in the 2 New York runs.
When you talk to all the Montreal players, they talk about how do you beat the Mets. You think that when you think about the Mets, you think of the Hernandezes and the Strawberries and the Fosters and the Carter, but they said you have to keep the two first guys, Dykstra and Backman, off the base. First inning, they get on. Pretty good pitch to Hernandez, but he went right with it for a double.
Well, he leads the majors with 15 game-winning hits. He's a beautifully scientific hitter. He's a bat manipulator. Just as we touched on when he went with the pitch down the left field foul line for the double in the first inning.
Hernandez pausing while the 767 flies by. After a while, you begin to recognize the different pitches. Those pitches.
And those planes bother Hernandez. He said, you know what happened in Chicago when they had a terrible trip. He said, one of those things liable to fall on this field. He said, I'll be in the dugout in the clubhouse while it's on the way down.
1 ball, 2 strikes the count. 2-2 now with Parker waiting on deck. The Cardinals are idle tonight. So one of these teams will pick up a half game and the other will drop a half game further behind. 2-2 pitch is fouled away. Still 2-2 with 1 out and the bases empty, and the Mets on top 2-0 as you look at Carter waiting next.
Well, when you're down on the field talking to these two teams, the one thing, not only do they have to play well, but they all talk about the Cardinals just keep going and going and going.
Look at those July batting leaders, not including tonight. Of course, Hernandez 1 for 1 goes up a point or 2.
Just inside for ball 3. 3-2 the count.
There's a perfect illustration. You talked about a bat manipulator, also about a guy that knows the strike zone. That ball had to be an inch off the inside corner, and he knew it was a ball.
3-2 pitch is grounded to the left side, and it's Ubi Brooks throwing Keith out, and there are 2 down. We talked about Carter and Gary playing with an ailing knee, and I spoke with the Mets catcher about that before the game.
Well, I'm just taking it basically day to day, but it really feels quite good. Dr. Parks has been looking at it from time to time, and I've been working on the Cybex machine, and as far as I'm concerned, I think it'll hold up for the rest of the season.
If it doesn't, this team's in a lot of trouble.
Said a mouthful.
Carter takes up high, ball 1, 1-0.
What's the latest on Billy Martin, Jim?
I think he's in a hospital somewhere in Texas.
2 or 3 days, we understand.
It's the most incredible story I think I've heard of in baseball in how long? For those of you who may not have heard of it, made headlines, at least in the New York papers. Billy had back spasms before last night's game in Arlington, Texas. An old friend of his, the Texas team doctor. What are you ducking about, alfalfa? Can't hurt you.
Want to bet?
Gave him an injection and in the process punctured a lung. And it's a very serious thing to happen. So our sympathy to Billy, to George Steinbrenner and the Yankees, because if there's ever a time they need strong leadership, it's right now.
And Carter waves at a breaking pitch and doesn't get it, and that is strikeout number 1 for Smith, who has settled down. We'll go to the 4th. The Mets lead the Expos.
It is brought to you by Stroh's and Stroh Light, the circle of sports beer.
4th inning, 2-0 Mets. UL Washington leads off for the Expos. He'll be followed by Dawson and Brooks. UL Washington traded for 2 minor leaguers during the winter in the deal with Kansas City and takes a strike on the outside corner. Dykstra doubled to left field in the first. Then the error on the bunt by Backman by Smith, and Hernandez doubling to left to drive in 2. And that's the scoring summary. Expos have had 1 base runner. Dawson singled off the glove of Backman in the first. 1 ball, 1 strike, the count on Washington.
Well, UL Washington was always the type of guy that I think they felt was going to steal somewhere 40 to 50 bases a year, and some years he did. little 2 years ago had 41. Another example of a guy that maybe changes leagues, changes teams, gets a new chance, new start. Perfect National League player. Artificial turf has always had good range, can run the bases, doesn't have a lot of power, but he obviously is hitting for a high average. He's always been able to hit fairly well as far as contact. And on artificial turf, a lot of times you can get a lot of hits.
And the toothpick helps.
Undoubtedly, especially this year.
Alfalfa always had a toothpick when he was playing.
Oh, when he beat me in tennis, he had a toothpick in his mouth the whole day.
He beat you in tennis?
Washington strikes out on a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, and with one away, it brings up Dawson.
I wonder if the Mets have any kids 14 years old and under down in the minors. The way they bring up young pitchers, they're all miraculous. They really are.
Well, again, that's 2 strikeouts, the same exact place. You have to give him a lot of credit. What impresses me about Aguilera is that, number one, he's got a good slider, and he's keeping the ball down, as you said. And Davey Johnson remarked, here's another young pitcher, 23 years of age, that has tremendous poise.
Somebody's doing something right in that Mets organization. Aguilera, Hernandez, of course, Dwight Gooden, the pitching prodigy. No telling how great that young man will become.
He pitches tomorrow night. 2-0 the count.
That was a close call.
Dawson, the only base runner for the Expos thus far, with a single in the first. Aguilera has 3 strikeouts, has retired 10 of the 11, and this coming on the heels of the question mark surrounding his presence tonight as a starting pitcher because of the arm soreness.
Well, 2 things to look for, Al. When you do have some forearm or elbow problems, usually it takes about 5 or 6 innings for your arm to stiffen up. And secondly, the Mets bullpen. If they have to go to the bullpen, who do you go to? Whom do you go to? Excuse me, Howard. Which one of them do you bring in?
It's a good question either way. 3-1 pitch, swing and a miss, 3-2.
Well, whom do you bring in?
I'm not getting paid to manage.
You've been doing a good job of it.
Say, as well as Davey Johnson used to manage when he used to play second base for the Orioles when I was pitching, I think he can do it by himself.
And ball 4, just low. So Dawson is on, and with 1 out, Brooks comes up. Kansas City, back of Brett Saberhagen leading the Tigers. Well, still hot.
That's the kid I like. Look at the other scores. Cleveland leading the Yankees. Baltimore has caught up. Jacoby had a homer for Cleveland. The Birds have come from 3-0 to 3-3. And the Brewers are leading the Texas Rangers.
And only one other game in the National League tonight. That's the Giants and Dodgers, and that's later.
Lasorda has to be a genius. Duke Snyder was in our booth. He, of course, calls the Montreal games. Wonderful man. And being an old Dodger, he follows that team very intensely. And he said when he was back in Los Angeles last, he said,
just foul.
He said it was the worst looking team I ever saw. I didn't know who these guys were. You heard him, didn't you, Jim? You were in there when Duke came in. And he said, I turn around now, they're 4.5 games ahead. He said, Lasorda's got to be a miracle, man.
Well, I think if moving Pedro Guerrero from third base to center field and the outfield and then having him hit 15 home runs in the month of what?
Well,
June is the but really what they've done is been able to win on pitching.
Grounded to third, Johnson backs up and goes to Backman, and that's all they can get. Unless you charge it and come up throwing,
well,
you're not going to be able to pull off a double play.
And a good idea of the aggressiveness. Good knees or bad knees, going in there hard.
That's right.
And Backman knows he doesn't have a chance for 2 and just holds the ball.
So 2 down, Brooks at first. Dreesen is the batter. He grounded out in the second inning.
Right about Guerrera, but now Brock is becoming consistent.
Well, you go back to 3 years ago with Brock's first year. He drove in 70 runs, hit 20 home runs, only hit around 230. Well, when you compare him with a guy like Steve Garvey, whose place he took, it wasn't sufficient.
Dreesen loves this park. over 300, well over 300 in most years since '81, and 417 thus far this season. Swing and a miss, throw to first base, and they don't get him. It looked like they'd be able to nail Brooks, but somehow he's able to scramble back to the bag. Watch again.
A close play.
It's one of the
trying
things,
to get a jump. Nice tag by Hernandez. You can see that he's in there.
that's one of the things Gary does best.
Well, he does a lot of things well, and just a snap throw.
1 ball, 1 strike the count. Dreesen rips it down the line and right, hooking and going foul. Howard made the point before that Dreesen, in a way, has really never lived up to expectations. He has one of the most curious stats I've ever seen, and that is a guy who's been in the big leagues for 13 years had his highest batting average in his rookie season. You almost never see that.
That's when they thought he was going to be a great one.
Well, he came up. I was the announcer for the Reds the year that they brought him up from the minor leagues in midseason. He hit better than 400 at Indianapolis. Hit 301 as a rookie. And then after that, he settled into the 280s, 270s, and just sort of became a part of the Big Red Machine. Not one of the essential elements, but he did fit in nicely.
Well, except when you put in there about 70 RBIs and 16, 17 home runs, it certainly helps the club offensively.
Paid his way, fly ball to left field. Heat makes the catch, and the inning is over. The Expos are done in the 4th, and it's still 2-0 New York. Talked about the fact they call him another Ted Williams, or have in the past. He asked to what degree that bothers him.
Oh, yeah, I think being compared to great Hall of Famers will hurt any ball player, because a young player like myself, I have to go out there and believe in myself and make the things happen. I don't have the kind of stats that Ted Williams had over his career. Maybe when my career is over, if I have those stats, then you could compare a player with a Hall of Famer like Ted Williams. But you know, it's just one of those pressure things that I've been going throughout my career, playing in New York City with all the media hype in New York City, and it's just something that happens, and it's something you can't avoid. And what I really try to do, Howard, is try to make the best out of it and keep believing in my dreams to go out and try to be the greatest player that I could be.
Strawberry pops out to short. Brooks making the catch here in the 4th, 1 away.
Tell you one thing, Alfalfa, that kid has more natural ability maybe than the Lord intended. His power is awesome.
Well, the other thing about him, too, is just the name. If his name is John Smith, he doesn't come up with half the height. Strike to Heath, and the count is 0-1.
It's like, excuse me, another thing is the time he came up. The Mets were not a particularly good ball club. I mean, their theme song was Catch a Rising Star, and the star was Darryl Strawberry, or at least the supposed star. And he certainly had some good years, but you said he had tremendous natural ability, but he has a long swing, which means you're going to have some holes. The older he gets, the better he should be getting. He'll get a little bit smarter.
I like the point Al made about his name, though, because beautiful.
Heath gone on strikes.
Bryn Smith has really settled in.
And we talked about that palm ball. Here it is. Looks like a fastball and just tumbles. You can see for yourself, outside corner, right at the knees. Strike 3.
I had a special, as you know, yesterday, Jim, with Mickey Mantle, and he remarked that one of the reasons he's become so lastingly, so enduringly popular, he said, I owe it to my dad. He named me Mickey. Mickey Mantle. Sounds like the All-American boy.
Johnson grounds to second. Washington throws him out. Quickly 1-2-3. Still 2-0. And we'll be back with Monday Night Baseball after this message. Coverage of the PGA Golf Championship. That's coming up August 9th, 10th, and 11th. This year to be played at the Cherry Hills Country Club in Denver. Final round action on Sunday the 11th. The PGA Golf Championship coming up on ABC. Tim Wallach leads off in the 5th inning. Rick Aguilera has allowed 1 single through 4. Has walked 1, struck out 3. And Wallach takes a strike on 1. Rick Aguilera out of Southern California, as is Wallach. Spent 2 years at Brigham Young University. Up and in, and the count is 1-1.
You mentioned about Tim Wallach maybe going to right field a little bit more. There's a guy that hit 28 home runs about 3 years ago, usually around 17 or 18. I said, what's the difference? Only 8 this year. He said, I don't know. I try to cut down on my strikeouts. I haven't been hitting home runs, so I guess it's a matter of priorities.
I was about to say, I like this kid because of his power. Down from 15 to 8, comparably, year to year.
And the count 2-2. Maybe he should go back the other way, the way things are going, though, for the Expos. They need somebody in that slot who can drive in some runs and hit them out.
Well, also, that's the kind of ballpark up in Montreal where you almost have to make an effort. When he said he hit the 28 home runs, he tried to pull the ball. This year, he is trying to go the other way a little bit more.
Broken bat, looper to short, where Santana makes the catch, and there's one gone. Base is empty with 1 out. And Herm Winningham, the center fielder, comes up. Fly to left in the 2nd inning.
Well, what Aguilera obviously needs is a tender elbow. One hitter so far.
How many times do you see it? Guy's a big question mark before the game, and the next thing you know, he pitches the game of his life. Forget, in September of '76, walking into the Giants clubhouse the night of a game in Atlanta and seeing the pitcher John Montefusco, who looked like he was about to die, contending that he wanted to go to the hospital with a flu. Foul back, but somehow went out, warmed up, and pitched a no-hitter. Unbelievable.
Then he went to the hospital with the flu.
No, he didn't go to the hospital.
Goes back to 1967. I got a cortisone shot the night before I pitched here in New York. Retired 27. Well, I gave up a 1-hitter to Jake Gibbs, or excuse me, to Horace Clark. Jake Gibbs hit a double play. I faced 27 guys and never pitched the rest of the year. Almost a perfect game. Well, a lot of times it just takes your mind off maybe the game and makes you feel less distracted.
Good breaking pitch. On 0-2 to strike him out, and that's 4 for Aguilera.
Well, he's kept the ball down. He's changed speeds. A little bit off his slider. Again, when you see that picture, it's not where the catcher catches the ball. It's where it goes over the plate.
Crosses the plate.
Umpire has to call that pitch out in front.
You were talking about pitching against the Yankees. Remember, you had struck out Mantle 5 or 6 times in a row. And then you went 2-0 against Mickey, and then what happened?
Well, he devastated the spotter's box on the 3rd deck at Yankee Stadium. That's the reason you know that. We talked to Davey Johnson. It's funny, Davey Johnson, who did play second base for years when I pitched at Baltimore, only remembers the long home runs that I threw. Never the strikeouts.
Well, you said you were always distressed the way he just looked up, turned the head, looked back down.
1 ball, 1 strike, the count on Fitzgerald.
Buck Rogers on Mike Fitzgerald, only hitting 197 going into the game. He said a lot of guys would not be happy if you're managing a ball club and your catcher's hitting 197, but I'd much rather have a guy like Mike that calls a good game, is a good defensive catcher, than a guy hitting 280 and can't catch.
Actually, Mike had a brief surge of power there in recent weeks, going for 5 home runs.
And keep in mind, last year the Mets gave a lot of the credit to the young pitching staff, to their young catcher, who was Fitzgerald. 2-2.
This kid is pitching a brilliant game. Everything's down low, as you just saw.
Well, what he has is, as we said before, a 92-mile-per-hour fastball. He has a slider that looks like that fastball. He comes up to home plate, and he's making quality pitches with that. The big question, will he be able to sustain this with a bad elbow into the late inning?
Ground into the hole, backhanded by Santana. Look what he found. Out. 3 up and 3 down. At the end of 4 1/2, 2-0 Mets.
In the inning play by Rafael Santana. Goes over, backhands it. Toughest play for a shortstop to make, but look at the quick release. Perfect throw. Hard to believe that guy made 2 errors yesterday, but in baseball, every day is a new day. Nice inning play.
Quick recovery as well as a quick release.
Well, when you scout a shortstop, all the scouts say, can he go into the hole? Kind of gives you an illustration of soft hands, because if you go in there and you don't have the soft hands, the ball just right off your glove into left field.
Also helped, frankly, by the fact that it was Fitzgerald, the catcher, running. Not the fastest guy in the world, but still an exceptional play, exceptional throw.
No balls, 2 strikes the count on Santana. Chopping it foul. Mets scoring their runs in the first inning. And since the first, just 1 soft single by Santana on a dubious call on a grounder to Brooks. Fooled him, but he got enough of it to foul Tippin and stay alive at the plate. It's about as bad as you can look on a swing, and he's still alive.
Well, he just nicked it. That was the overhand curveball, but it goes back to what if you talk to any of the Expos, the difference between Bryn Smith this year and last year is he's been getting runs to work with. There you see another slow curveball, strike 3.
And that's strikeout number 3 for Bryn Smith, 1 away. Another look here.
Santana way out in front of it.
Good ball game, though.
Well, you almost expect it to be a low-scoring game. Smith loves to pitch here in Shea Stadium, 3-0 lifetime. Aguilera just giving up a little bit over 2 runs a game, even though he's only 3-3 on the year.
What's this kid, Jimbo? He doesn't have a bad swing.
3 for 13 as a hitter with 1 RBI. Sacrificed in the second inning.
A good athlete now.
And he rips it by a diving third baseman Wallach for a base hit into left field. He didn't get cheated on that swing. He'll start throwing him some curveballs the next time he comes up.
Well, he got a fastball right down the middle. You see Tim Wallach diving, almost comes up with it. Of course, normally, that's how you can help yourself if you are a pitcher. You just want to get ahead of a pitcher. Smith tried to do it.
You see that shot Chet Forty just gave us? He looks too young to play in the big leagues. Look at him.
Len Dykstra, who is still older than Dwight Gooden, takes up high, ball 1. 1-0.
Gooden is separate and apart from all others. But after Gooden, if I had to pick the 2 best young pitchers we've seen this year in baseball, they would be Hershiser of the Dodgers and Saberhagen of the Royals. Saberhagen leading Detroit 2-0 in the 4th inning tonight. He's going against Petrie. They're in the 7th now in Cleveland. The Yanks have tied it at 2.
2-1 on Dykstra, and there are the American League scores for you. Blue Jays are looking for their 9th in a row. Len Dykstra up and down a couple of times this season, 22 years old, against Smith, who will be 30 next week. And the 2-1 pitch is a strike, 2-2. Dykstra, scrappy, dives for balls, dives into walls. That was a case in point last week when skidding on the warning track here at Shea. Wound up banging his head off the wall in center. But he's brought that type of play to the Mets in a key role, not only replacing Wilson in center field as a beach ball comes loose, but as the leadoff hitter.
We'll get it over.
That's the way Chet Forty plays horse.
Excuse me.
balls, 2 strikes to count with 1 out. And Dykstra lifts it in the air to left field. But Raines has seen that act before and is positioned perfectly. Dykstra going to left field, did it in the first inning to the gap for a double. And now he's 1 for 3. So 2 down with Aguilera at first base, and up comes Wally Backman. Backman was being platooned with Kelvin Chapman, but Chapman just wasn't hitting, and so they sent him to AAA. Nobody not playing every day.
Nobody asked me, but they're playing Backman too shallow in center and left. He's got excellent power in that direction.
It's a situation similar. A lot of times outfielders, Howard, will move if you get behind a guy like Backman, because that's when you're going to have to throw him a strike, similar to what happened to Dykstra. Then again, other outfielders won't move. These are the guys you don't particularly want to walk, but they become more dangerous hitters. We see the ball girl.
She had a long run.
She gets to go sit down. Got to make that play, then you don't have to run after it.
The fans wanted to run after it. 0-1 pitch is outside, and the count 1-1.
What's the implication?
Nothing. Somebody came in the booth and said that.
All right. Up and down throughout the season. But in July, hitting extremely well, as you just saw.
1-2 the count on Backman. Mets are ahead 2-0.
It's become a tough out, this kid.
Well, what makes him a tough out is that, again, he does not swing at a whole lot of bad pitches. In this situation, with 2 strikes, he has a tendency to expand the strike zone. You talked to Bill Robinson, the batting instructor. One of the problems he had back in May was that he was swinging at everything. For Wally Backman to get the most out of his ability, he can't do that.
Down he goes on a fastball. At the end of 5, still 2-0 Mets, and we'll be back after this from your local station.
15. We got this game won.
Yeah, you guys are buying a light beer from Miller.
Yeah, nice Philly.
Taste it!
One out to go. Yeah, what can he do to us now?
Hey, I'll keep the change.
Here's Rodney!
Any pinch hitters left?
Here I am.
Come on, Lee!
Right down! Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Hey, wait a minute. This game isn't over yet. I caught that ball.
Why not? He'll be the best looking old timer in the history of the sport.
Thank you, Howard. Awfully nice of you.
Let me ask you this, though. What do you think about when you pick up the paper and you see what Don Sutton and Tom Seaver are doing this season?
I think that they're doing a great job. I mean, that is amazing. I really give them a lot of credit. Of course, they have obviously worthwhile goals, trying to get 300. Tom, what, 298? Don, 289.
What's amazing is Necro. They had him written off, and now he's won 3 in a row.
He's somewhere, what, right around 292?
Yep. And Joe won yesterday over the Mets here.
Well, he got 19 hits in support. However, the Mets pulled a miracle here a few days back. They got 16 runs, all unearned.
Yeah. In that doubleheader, in the first game of the doubleheader Saturday night against Houston. It's a crazy night. The Astros give up 16 runs and their team ERA goes down. Which is why you have to look at the ERA very carefully.
Yeah, it's a deceiving statistic.
2-2 the count on Bryn Smith in the 6th inning. Smith, Raines, and Washington.
Maintains his velocity. Very impressive looking young pitcher.
In the air, to right field and curling toward the line with Hernandez giving chase with Strawberry, but it's back in the seats, and it's still 2 balls and 2 strikes.
A lot of miracles in baseball this year, as well as records to be made and set. The real miracle for many is Doyle Alexander. Around the league, they keep saying the guy can't pitch, and he keeps doing nothing but winning for Toronto. Struck out 9 yesterday, and he does it all with motion, doesn't he, Jimbo?
Pretty much, but again, here's another example. He talked about Bryn Smith's velocity getting better. Talked to Al Whitmore early in the season. Doyle's throwing harder than he has in 2 or 3 years.
In the air to right center field, and Dykstra comes in quickly to make the catch. 1 away. Dykstra was well back there with the pitcher at the plate. Ran a circle route to get in, but the ball hung for him. 1 away.
Left fielder.
This Saturday, again, it's the Giants taking on the Houston Oilers in the annual Hall of Fame game to begin our NFL coverage as part of ABC's Wide World of Sports with Frank, Joe Namath, and O.J. Simpson with you from Canton, Ohio. Hall of Fame site. O.J. and Joe to be enshrined that day as well. So a real special day Saturday, and it begins at 2:30 Eastern time here on ABC.
Were you in the Orange Bowl January 12th, 1969?
No.
Entire 3rd quarter, the Colts only had the ball for 4 downs.
Raines rips it to right, but there's Strawberry making the catch, and that one was hooking on it. So with top spin and draw on it, Raines is gone, 2 down.
Also, well, you can't really tell from here, but you see Darrell with long arms reaching out and making the play. A lot of times that ball will also knuckle. But there, Aguilera, not a particularly good pitch, but hit right on the nose, right at one of his outfielders.
His toothpick.
UL Washington in the lineup because he's been hot of late and giving Vance Law a rest, but not hot tonight. Aguilera struck him out twice. Only 1 hit for the Expos. Dawson in the 1st inning with that base head backman. Had he been 2 inches taller, would have made the catch. Strike, 0-1. It took place in the 1st inning. Runners at 1st and 3rd and nobody out, and Keith Hernandez at the plate goes to left field as he's prone to do, and just fair. Down the line into the corner, it scored Dykstra, and it scored Backman as well, and nothing but 0 since as the Mets lead 2-0 and come up here in the bottom of the 6th inning with Hernandez to lead things off against Bryn Smith. He pops it up as the game continues to move along rapidly. It is Wallach making the catch. 1 down, and that'll bring up Gary Carter. Meanwhile, Bryn Smith tonight still hasn't walked anybody, and that means his string right now is 29 1/3 innings. And he's right up there with Lamar Hoyt of San Diego and Dennis Eckersley of Chicago as the control leaders in the league this season.
So far, this one the quickest games the Mets have played all year. They usually go 3 hours and longer.
Of course, now that you have mentioned that, we're going to bring out the sleeping bags. Gary Carter at the plate. Strike. Chuck Howard just called up here, wants to know what you'd like for breakfast.
The minute I said it, he started to heckle.
Gorman and Sisk are throwing in the bullpen. Probably just getting in some work the way things are going.
I think not. I think Aguilera has probably told Stottlemyre or maybe Davy Johnson himself that the arm's beginning to get a little tired.
Well, if that's the case, though, the reason I said I think they're just getting in some work is that I would think they'd get McDowell and and or Orosco up at this point.
Either that or they heard Howard say that this game is moving along quickly and they want to make it drawn out a little bit, because really Sisk and Gorman have not exactly been getting too many hitters out.
Where you going from here, Jimbo?
Where am I going from here? Back to Baltimore.
Going to be in the Hamptons this weekend?
Next week.
Carter takes a half swing on a pitch that was low, and he strikes out, and that's number 5. 2 down.
You, Al, you're going to Canton to see the Hall of Fame game.
Going to Menlo Park to beat Palmer in tennis again. I know you want to play on clay courts the next time, right?
I want to play somebody that I can beat.
Here's Strawberry. Takes inside, ball 1, 1-0.
Well, got to play a girl.
Can't believe you said that. I thought you were going to suggest you.
Strawberry fouls it away in the count 1-1. And Coach, where are you going for the next few weeks?
To the Hamptons.
With your satellite dish?
Not for me.
1-1 pitch. Ripped into right center. That's a base hit. Hit number 5 for the Mets. 2 out. Strawberry at first. Heap is the batter. Mets home attendance this season, as you can see, is considerably more than 400,000 over the Yankees. And that figures out to an average of about 6,600 people more per game than the Yankees are drawing in the Bronx.
By the way, the Yanks have taken a 5-2 lead over Cleveland, playing the 7th.
And they're managed tonight by Lou Piniella. Talked about Billy Martin before and the punctured lung, and the fact that Billy is still in the hospital in Arlington, Texas. The report is for a couple of more days. Strike. But that graphic illustrates one of the great battles in New York, and that is the battle for fan supremacy. And the Mets are winning it right now. And it's been a big turnaround for them.
It's a situation, as you see Smith throw over to first. Strawberry, 27 stolen bases last year, can run. Not a bad situation to run. Have him going. Another guy in scoring position.
Excellent crowd tonight, Jim.
Pardon me?
Excellent crowd tonight.
Well, we talked about the optimism. That's another reason. Drawing very well, playing very well. Pennant race. Kind of city you can draw well in September. A lot of other cities around the country, attendance drops off once kids go back to school, but in New York.
Smith had Darrell going the wrong way there.
So he's keeping him close. Strawberry 13 of 18 this season.
And that is something that the Montreal pitchers did not do early. We talked about Mike Fitzgerald, did not throw very well. His success ratio of throwing runners out. And there goes Strawberry.
And he got a good jump, but it's fouled away, and the count remains no balls and 2 strikes.
Well, you talked about what makes Darryl Strawberry so special. Awesome power and ability to throw and field. But also, not too many guys his size can run like him. The only guy I can think of, maybe Dave Winfield and Von Hayes, that are exceptionally tall with exceptional speed. Again, I think the higher batting average will come with maturity, learning the pitchers, learning his own capabilities.
This time he doesn't go. Danny Heath fouls it away, and the count stays no balls and 2 strikes. Bryn Smith. Well, he's been a godsend for Buck Rogers. To go back to what we talked about at the opening tonight, Steve Rogers, the longtime ace, was released. Had a bad year last year, got off to a terrible start, tried to hook on with the Angels and went to Edmonton, and then they dropped him. And Charlie Lee has been on the disabled list all season. Some question as to whether Lee will ever pitch again. He's out for the balance of 1985, so you lose somebody like Rogers. You lose last year's All-Star Game starter, and you need somebody like a Bryn Smith to come in and plug up the gap. Strawberry goes. Heath grounds it just foul. Dreesen tried to do the job at first base.
Yeah, he really did.
But Frank Pulley has seen that act before.
Big
Danny knows
smile.
it. So still no balls and 2 strikes.
Another plus, of course, 2 other pitchers from Montreal had pretty good seasons. Bill Gullickson, but then again, he was on the disabled list with a groin pull. And Tim Burke, 5-0, outstanding young pitcher. Again, that's how they're here. I mean, that's why they have a chance to still win the National League East.
You really like that Burke kid.
Well, I saw him pitch right before the first Monday night game, and saw him come in relief at back of Gullickson, who pulled a groin and went on the DL that night. As we see the pitch out. He's got 4 pitches, gets them all over. If you can do that and you have an above-average arm when he has a fastball around 91 miles per hour, you're going to win some games, and he has.
Two balls and 2 strikes. Mets on top 2-0. We're in the bottom of the 6th inning. And Strawberry goes, and he hits it into left field for a base hit. And since Strawberry was going, he can move all the way to third as the throw comes into second. So a nice job by Danny Heath to keep fighting off pitches and stay alive. And he's rewarded with a single to left.
Well, it's defensive hitting, but he knows he can't go out and try to hit the long ball. Just looks like a palm ball away, just serves it to left.
Third baseman.
And you go back to that graphic we saw earlier, hitting over 500 off Smith. That's an example of why.
Well, Hojo could break it wide open right now.
Johnson has grounded out twice. The Mets with runners at first and third. It into shallow center field, and Winningham will have to play it on a hop, and it's 3-0. So Johnson with a single to center, and the Mets lead 3-0 with 2 out in the 6th.
Well, Johnson tries to break it open, tries to go out and get a ball on the outside part of the plate and pull it, hits it right off the end of the bat, loops it into center field.
As Branch Rickey always said, luck is the residue of design.
The Mets with a victory would pull to within 3 of the idle Cardinals. Montreal, if they lose, would drop to 5 games back. And so after getting the first 2 men here in the 6th inning, 3 consecutive singles, and Rafael Santana will be the batter. In the Montreal bullpen activity, Gary Lucas, the lefty, begins to throw. First and second with 2 down. Danny Heath at second, Howard Johnson at first. And Santana hitting .255. Boy, Smith has really made Santana look bad tonight.
Well, when you get a guy looking bad on a pitch and you can get it over, which is what made Smith effective, you come right back with it. Struck him out on a curveball, started him off with one.
Fastball grounded down to the second baseman, and Washington throws him out, and the inning is over. But the Mets get a run, 3 hits, and leave a couple. We'll go to the 7th with a and Dykstra goes down on strikes. Strikeout number 6 for Bryn Smith.
Well, there you get a chance to see the palm ball. Just tumbles. Dykstra way out in front, has no chance. The only way you can hit that pitch is keep your weight back, or if your weight goes forward, keep your hands back. You couldn't do either.
Fans want more.
Backman. With Aguilera at first base and 1 out. Strike. Who's the worst hitting pitcher you ever saw?
Dean Chance.
No.
first one. That was my opinion.
I vote for Bob Buell.
Bob Buell?
Yeah.
When'd you dig him up?
Terrible.
Another good hitting pitcher was Fat Freddie Fitzsimmons, who Jim studied in the young 30s.
Ron Herbel.
Ron Herbel.
Yeah. Of course, Koufax was a terrible hitting pitcher.
Yanks are in trouble. They couldn't hold a 4-run lead against Texas in the 8th. They've just taken Whitson out.
And Backman strikes out. That's strikeout number 7 for Smith. Well above his average. PGA Championship, a reminder, comes your way. And those are the dates, 9th, 10th, and 11th of August for our coverage. From Denver.
Well, they've gone into the 9th. It's still 5-2 in the Yankee-Cleveland game. Is that Rigetti in there, Jim?
Yes, it is.
Hernandez takes low in the count, 1-0. Aguilera at first base, 2 down, bottom of the 7th inning, 3-0 Mets. Third, and Wallach stays with an erratic skid and throws him out. And so they strand Aguilera after his leadoff single. To the 8th we go. New York 3.
Continue to fly. Top of the 10th inning, Damaso Garcia of the Toronto Blue Jays. The 5th home run of the game, the 3rd off Mike Boddicker. And now in the bottom of the 10th, it is the Blue Jays looking to win their 9th straight, leading 4-3.
And back here at Shea Stadium, the scoring summary, Hernandez with a 2-run double in the first, and then Howard Johnson with an RBI single, with Strawberry Heath and Johnson accounting for the 3rd run with 2 out singles in the 6th inning. It's 3-0 as we go to the 8th, but the big story has been Aguilera working on a 1-hitter, has 2 hits himself, and he faces Tim Wallach here in the top of the 8th inning, who grounds it foul.
That's an unbelievable Blue Jay team. Bobby Cox getting everything possible out of that team.
Terry Leach would have started tonight. He's just getting in some work right now in the bullpen. He would have started had Aguilera not been fed. And that's a fair ball by a diving Johnson and down into the left field corner where it is touched by a fan. And Wallach pulls in at second with a double. For the first time in the game, the Expos have the leadoff man on base.
Just a ground ball down the line. Johnson playing off the line with a 3-run lead. Dives, can't come up with it. Just a low slider in the middle of the plate. Routine ground ball in every respect, except it was right over the bag.
Now Winningham. 0 for 2. For the first time tonight, the Expos have a man at second base. And Winningham drills it into center for a base hit. Wallach had to hold to see if the ball would go through, and he is stopped at third. Crowd responds to Dykstra's throw, cut off by Hernandez, but the Expos have something going here in the 8th inning. 1st and 3rd, and nobody out, and Francona coming up to pinch hit.
But this is just why Davy Johnson began the inning with the bullpen in operation.
Terry Francona, whose father Tito played for many years, several different teams in the 50s and 60s. And Terry, who's had 2 major knee operations. Prior to the second one last year, he was battling Tony Gwynn for the National League batting lead in June, but he was out for the rest of the season after undergoing surgery, and now he's relegated to pinch hitting duty and an occasional start.
Well, he was complaining he would like to play a little bit longer, or excuse me, more often. There you see
Orosco.
Left-hander is Jesse Orosco, and Roger McDowell, the right-hander. Conant does not have a lot of power, but is an excellent average hitter.
1-0 the count.
Only around 271 this year, but as you said, Al, can hit the ball where it's pitched. Actually, perfect swing for a pinch hitting role. Unfortunately, I think after the knee operations, his best position would be first base, and Danny Dreesen's over there.
Popped up, left side. Johnson and Santana in the neighborhood, and Rafael makes the catch. The big first out. One away, and now Razor Shines will come up to pinch hit for Smith. Shines, who has spent most of the season in the minor leagues, recently called up and playing sparingly. He's hit 160. Great name, isn't it? Razor Shines. Kansas City still leads. Yankees on top of the 9th, trying to hold off Cleveland. Told you about Garcia's homer in the 10th. Toronto leads. And the Rangers lead the Brewers now in the 7th, 2-1. Infield double play depth. And Shines takes low, ball 1. 1-0.
One out for Baltimore in the bottom of the 10th.
Razor Shines. Spent a long time in the minor leagues. 29 years old. And Carter blocks it in the dirt. 2-0 the count. Wallach, the runner at third. And that's Winningham at first with one away. And Mel Stottlemyre will go to the mound. So Aguilera in his first jam of the night. And I guess the first thing Mel wants to know is how he is, and he shakes his head. He doesn't want to come out of the game. That's obvious.
The second thing, of course, in this situation, Aguilera, if he had his wish, would either throw a pop-up or a double play ball. But on the other hand, I'm sure Mel Stottlemyre is telling him, tying run is at the plate, winning runs on deck. Let's not walk this batter. Let's make him hit the ball. Even if you get a sacrifice fly or something like that, you get the out. And at this point in the game, you're willing to do that. Trade a run for an out, especially with a 3-0 lead.
Ball 3, and Tim Raines on deck. So he's behind now, 3-0. Shines walks on 4 pitches.
And Orosco will doubtless be brought in.
So now you've got Raines coming up. He's a switch hitter. Then you've got Washington coming up. He's a switch hitter. Johnson is going to the mound. Then Dawson.
You saw Johnson signaled with the left hand. That means Jesse Orosco. Al?
And we'll be back in New York after this message and news headlines from our local stations. Here in the 8th inning. He stands to, of course, win the game or have nothing to do with it. He can't lose it. He leaves with a tying run at first base in the 8th inning. And Jesse Orosco has come out of the bullpen. This telecast, presented by authority of Major League Baseball, may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Jesse Orosco, so good last year, so erratic, though, this season. After a good start, some question about his soundness and what was looking to be one of the strengths of the Mets early on this season, with Orosco performing well and McDowell emerging, has all of a sudden become a big question mark and problem for Dave Johnson. Meanwhile, Mitch Webster has come in to run for Razor Shines at first base.
Well, if you go back to last season, Al, Doug Sisk, Jesse Orosco, you see right there, Jesse had 31 saves, Sisk 15, so you go into the 85 season thinking that you have your bullpen all straightened out. You get a young pitcher like Roger McDowell that comes up and starts out 5-1. What he doesn't win, he saves. But then all of a sudden, Sisk goes completely haywire. And as we see Tim Raines.
Totally dominated by
Well,
Orosco.
another thing, of course, Davey Johnson, most likely with his interest in the computer, has that readout.
That's right.
And also, Al talked about it earlier, the difference in the disparity of the batting averages right-handed and left-handed. Raines hitting much lower right-handed this year.
So he gets Raines turned around the way he wants him, and he looks at his strike. Raines, as a right-handed hitter, batting .235.
Well, Jimbo just mentioned alfalfa, the computer readout. Very interesting thing before the game today. Leslie Visser, young lady who writes for the Boston Globe, and most excellent sports writer, is doing a piece on the use of computers in baseball. She had a good talk with Rusty Staub, very interesting, and also, of course, with Davey Johnson, who uses the computer very effectively but doesn't overuse it.
1 ball, 1 strike, bases loaded, 1 out, 8th inning. Mets on top, 3-0. Hit just foul. Almost hit Wallach. And the count 1-2 as the ball girl gets a nice hand. Wallach, the runner, at third. And Winningham at second. Pinch runner Webster at first. And the count 1 ball, 2 strikes. With UL Washington, the switch hitter, on deck. Pitch to Raines. Foul away again.
And that's the pitch that makes Jesse Orosco so effective, the hard slider. Early in the year, Gary Carter coming over to new ball club, coming from Montreal here to New York, wanted Orosco to throw that slider instead of down and into the right-handers on the outside part of the plate. It resulted in an arm injury. Orosco's arm bothered him, lost his velocity both on his fastball and his slider. But here's another typical overpowering lever, has the over 90-mile-per-hour fastball and a slider a lot of people compare to a guy named Sparky Lyle.
Popped up. The infield fly rule is in effect. So it doesn't matter who makes the catch, and it's Santana. 2 down. A big out. Now, UL Washington is due up. Let's see if Rogers opts for Vance Law, perhaps, with some power, but instead he will go with Washington, who is 0 for 3 tonight.
That's interesting. I don't understand that, do you?
At this point in the game, it's surprising.
Well, it is. If there's anything to say for Buck Rogers, it's that if UL Washington has any power at all, it's more from the right-hand side. I've seen him many times when I was pitching in Baltimore, homered off Scotty McGregor, but he's not what you consider a power hitter.
Well, maybe Buck's influenced by the computer. Look at 1985, hitting .394 with runners in scoring position. And then there's always the toothpick.
Washington's only homer this season was Saturday night as he takes a strike, and he hit that one right-handed against Cincinnati.
Well, I don't know, in about 10 years or so in the American League, I never saw him hit a home run left-handed. Right-handed many times. Not many times, but does have the capability. But he's a good high ball hitter. Orosco's going to get him out. He's going to have to keep the ball down.
Washington this season batting .250 from the right side, and came into tonight's game hitting .359 left-handed. 0-1 the count. Bases loaded and 2 down in the 8th. Mets precariously holding on to a 3-0 lead. Cool, can't swing, strike. 0-2.
Here's the hard slider that we were talking about. Can't pick up the spin. And Carter with an excellent pickup. That's the type of pitch that when it bounces with that spin, if it goes by you, not only to the runner on third score, but the other runners move up into scoring position.
has one now. Looking for that strikeout. And with the crowd on its feet, the 0-2 pitch is outside. 1-2.
Dawson on deck. He's 7 for 14 against Orosco.
And that's popped up in foul ground, and Carter comes over, has a play, makes the catch. Great job by Orosco, and as the Expos return to side in the 8th. It's still 3-0 New York, and we'll be back after this from our local station.
When you've won 8 straight, as the Blue Jays have, you play with tremendous confidence. Bottom of the 10th inning, Cal Ripken, the batter, he sends this Tom Henke pitch to center field. Jesse Barfield makes it look like batting practice. If it was a home run, the O's would have won. But the final, the Blue Jays win their 9th, 4-3. Back to New York and Al Michaels.
All right, Al, and there is Jesse Orosco in the dugout, and if he can turn in the type of performance that he turned in the top of the 8th inning, well, then the Mets may very well overtake the Cardinals. That's the type of thing they will have to get over the next 2 months.
Well, we talked about it early on. See Gary Lucas, who's come in relief. Starting pitching, I think second in the National League, right behind the Dodgers, and their bullpen's the worst.
And the catch you just saw, made by the Toronto outfielder, is typical of what's been happening with the Blue Jays all year long. Base hit immediately.
Gary Carter singling here in the 8th inning. Lucas pitching and Butera catching. The new battery for Montreal as Carter picks up his first hit of the night, and Strawberry comes up. They had 3 men on the left side for the shift, so Carter goes the other way.
Well, I don't know if he did it on purpose, but there was nobody over there. Even a trickler to right field would have served the same purpose.
Strawberry, 1 for 3 tonight. Outside, Dawson, Brooks, and Treason are the Expos who will come up in the top of the 9th inning. Mets 3 runs, 9 hits, and no errors. Expos no runs, 3 hits, and 1 error. Nobody out of the bottom of the 8th inning. Strike, 1-1.
The interesting thing about Montreal is Gary Lucas, who has been known through his career as a closer, a type of guy that gets in a save situation, just doesn't have any use to Buck Rogers in that capacity. They go with one guy, and that's Jeff Reardon. Doesn't matter if you're facing right-handers, left-handers. It's a win-type situation or a save situation, Reardon's the man they go to.
And they've also been using Tim Burke to set Reardon up, and you would see Burke here if they had the lead, for instance. But not right now, down 3-0. Carter at first base. And a 2-1 pitch. Is a strike on the outside corner, and the count is 2-2. Saberhagen still working on a shutout. Yanks win. Add 3 to make it 8-2. Told you about Toronto, and the Rangers leave Milwaukee. 9 in a row for the Blue Jays.
Kind of pitching the Blue Jays have, Jimbo, it's going to be very hard to catch that team.
Well, you would think it would be. Again, I think everybody felt that when they got Caudle and Lavelle that they would just walk to a pennant. Of course, they seem to be doing that, even though they do struggle, though, at times.
In the air to left field, and Tim Raines drifts over toward the line and makes the catch. 1 away. Funny thing about Toronto, even though they did shore up their bullpen, Caudle and Lavelle are not having necessarily scintillating years. It's better than it's been for the Blue Jays.
Acker's done a good job.
But Acker's done a good.
Young Jimmy Key has come along.
Well, Key didn't win tonight, I don't believe.
No, he didn't.
But he was 9-4 going into it. And here's a guy that you thought maybe was going to be a middle reliever. All of a sudden, he wins 9 games for you.
And then
Luis
suddenly
Leal,
there's Filer.
Right. Luis
Coming
Leal,
from nowhere.
13 games last year, is in the minor leagues.
Meanwhile, Tom Paciorek recently acquired to shore up the Mets bench from the White Sox. A right-handed batter will come up to hit for the left-hand batting Heath in the bottom of the 8th inning.
I think he's a tremendous acquisition for the Mets. This man has been a solid hitter all of his career. He was happy to get out of Chicago. He'd gone 2 for 2, and LaRussa 3 for 3, I think, and LaRussa benched for a pinch hitter.
Well, what happened, I think, was he was out in Oakland and got 2 hits, walked the 3rd time, and there are only in the 4th inning, obviously a high-scoring game, and he was taken out for a pinch runner.
This man's an artist with the bat. In the manner of, but not as good as Hernandez. He will hit it where it's pitched. He can hit inside out very well.
It also gives the Mets an experienced right-hand hitter coming off the bench, something they sorely lack. Rusty Staub, one of the premier left-handed pinch hitters.
Good way for Pashorek to wrap up his career, if indeed this does it for him at the age of 38. Playing on a team with a chance to go all the way. He's been with the Dodgers and the Braves, Seattle, and the White Sox. And came over here a couple of weeks ago.
Well, we've done a couple of Dodger games, and we always used to throw out those minor league stats that a lot of their minor league players have. Pashorek, Spokane and Albuquerque, something like 28 home runs a year, over 100 RBIs for 3 straight years. Couldn't even get to the major leagues. When he did, sat on the bench for a while, but he is a tough out. Hits the ball, as you said, Howard, hard and soft. Exactly where it's pitched most of the time.
You notice how hot Hal McRae has been ever since last Monday night when he got the big hit?
Well, he hit 2 more home runs, drove in 3 runs yesterday. On the week, that is.
2-2. Hal's looking for a new contract. He just wants to stick around long enough to play with his son.
Wise guy.
No, we talked about it last week. His son, the #1 draft choice of the Royals, playing in the rookie league in Florida.
Ironic thing would be if his son came up and took his job.
Yeah. Well, he's a shortstop. That'll be difficult. 2-2. Grounded back to Lucas, who goes to second for 1 and back to first, and they are still able to get the double play despite Lucas fumbling the ball. So the Mets don't score in the 8th, and the Expos come up in the 9th with New York ahead. Wide World Saturday, the New York Giants taking on the Houston Oilers in Canton, and it begins at 2:30 Eastern time. NFL football, the Giants and Oilers this Saturday. And a reminder, ABC News Nightline will follow your late local news. Tonight, the Soviet promised to stop nuclear testing through the end of the year. Ted Koppel examines if it's an important breakthrough or just propaganda with his guest, White House National Security Advisor Robert McFarland. Tonight on Nightline, Pashorek stays in the game, plays left. And here's Dawson to lead off. Dawson with the Expos' only hit through the first 7 innings. They have just 3 in the game. Jesse Orosco trying to wrap it up for Aguilera. Outside, ball 1, 1-0.
At Washington was a key out. Remember Dawson, 7 for 14 against Orosco.
You're looking right there at one of the truly, gifted athletes before the knee injuries. Could do almost everything. Run the bases, hit. Great defensive outfielder. Back was moved last year from center field to right field. Still won a Golden Glove for the best right fielder in the National League. Can hit with power. Used to be able to hit for the average.
Foul at the plate. Funny, not a whole lot of love lost between the 2 guys at the plate right now, Dawson and Carter, as you look at the Yankees beating Cleveland 8-2. And Gary left Montreal. Some of the Expos, and there's the Toronto totals, some of the Expos said that Carter was just a little bit too full of himself, to paraphrase what many of them said. And Dawson was among those. Little chopper hit foul. Had a chance to talk with Gary before the game about it. And to this day, he's still upset that it's come out, that he felt he'd given it everything he had in his 10 years at Montreal. It just didn't work out in terms of winning a pennant. And he was a little surprised that some of his teammates went public with it. And you get that on a lot of clubs, the bickering and the petty jealousies. Grounded to the right side and fielded by Backman, who throws it out, one away.
I think another thing that brings on petty jealousies and envy is that habitually they were picked to win and were unable to do that.
Kept coming so close.
Have to be impressed with this Mets team. Have the capacity to play opportunistic baseball against everyone. And if their bullpen returns to the kind of form Orosco has shown thus far tonight, despite that single by Hubie Brooks, with their starting pitching and the kind of performance Aguilera gave tonight, they've got to be considered very much in there. Just as you said at the very top of the telecast, Jim.
Well, it just seems that since Strawberry came back, whether it's just thinking that you can do it and then going out and do it, they have scored a lot more runs. But there are some question marks. Ron Darling has struggled just as he did the second half of last year, the last 3 or 4 ball games.
Is there a team in baseball without question marks?
Dan Dreesen at the plate. Strike one.
On the record, only the Blue Jays.
And their question mark is they've never won before. And now it's going to be August very soon. And you really find out about the Blue Jays.
As you wrote for Kurt Wilde, the days dwindled down to a precious few.
0-2. If there is a strike next week, the days are a precious few right now.
Well, we'll get into that as time permits. Having presented Commissioner Peter Ubroth and Executive Director of the Players Association, Donald Fear.
1 ball, 2 strikes, the count on Dan Dreesen.
I honestly do not believe there will be a strike. I watched Ubroth work enough miracles in L.A. He got into the act and somehow got a 5-4 favorable vote and thus got the women's marathon in. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been in the Olympics. What a job he did.
Chopper to the right side. Backman short hops, but no double play. They settle for the out at first base. Brooks goes to second. 2 down. The Mets an out away from picking up a half game on the Cardinals. And the batter will be Wallach.
That was a lovely play on a very difficult bounce by Backman.
It sure was, Howard. I mean, normally you would play back, make the sure. You don't really worry about a double play with a 3-run lead. Chooses to come in, take the short hop, and is able to make the play.
It's the kind of thing the Mets do, the kind of plays they make when they have to. Sure, made a couple of errors yesterday, had a bad day in the field, that happens.
All in all, it's been a very good month for the Mets.
Oh, terrific.
They'll be 19-7 this month.
Only the Dodgers had a better month.
1-0. By the way, if they can get this last out, or at least prevent the Expos from scoring here in the 9th inning, this will be the Mets' 12th shutout of the season. Only the Dodgers have more with 16. Aguilera looking for his 4th win, and Orosco would pick up his 11th save. And Smith's record will drop to 12-4. Foul back. 1 ball and 1 strike to count.
If this final score obtains, or a Mets victory holds, it'll be the 16th game-winning hit for Keith Hernandez. Remember his left field foul line double in the 1st inning. Knocked in 2 runs. 8 this month. Game-winning hits.
And that's drilled to deep left field, and for sure it goes back, and you can forget about the shutout. And all of a sudden it is 3-2 as Wallach hits a 1-1 pitch over the wall for his 9th home run of the season.
Well, we said we liked his power. He was going too much to right field. Remember, Jimbo?
I certainly do. Like Orosco threw him a changeup, which is not a pitch he throws very much, and Wallach up in the strike zone, jumps all over it.
Well, we've got Chuck Howard worried about a 15-inning game now.
Well, Jim Wolford will come up to pinch hit for Winningham as they opt for the right-hand batter. Wolford, the much-traveled outfielder. The Kansas City and the Milwaukee Brewers, San Francisco, now Montreal. The tying run at the plate and takes a strike. 0-1.
You see there from the graphic, not a whole lot of power. Disciple of Charlie Lau, mostly a line drive hitter, goes the other way.
1-1. 3-2. The Mets on top with 2 out of the bases empty in the 9th inning. Vance Law is out on deck as Wolford hits it down the line, but it hooks foul. And Orosco is now within a strike. 1-2. So Law would come up if Wolford keeps it going. Wolford batting for Winningham in the 9th inning.
And it goes back to when they didn't pinch hit for Washington. Law 6 home runs, Washington 1. Orosco gets Wolford out. You never get to use Law.
Here's the 1-2 pitch. Wolford hits it foul. Staying alive. Still 1-2. Buck Rogers, along with Russ Nixon, the former manager of the Reds. Davey Johnson. Called strike 3.
The final score, Mets 3, Expos 2.
So Jesse Orosco gives everybody a thrill, but is able to close the door. Save it for the Mets. They'll pick up half a game on the idle Cardinals. Now trailed by 3 in the East. Montreal in 3rd place, 5 back. Another look at the game-ending strikeout.
We talked about that backdoor slider, comes around the outside part of the plate. Wolford can't even get the bat off his shoulder.
3 runs, 9 hits, and no errors for the Mets. 2 runs, 5 hits, and 1 error for the Expos. We'll be back at Shea Stadium after this.